Once forbidden to wear jeans, now WNBA players are in charge of their appearance. 1 month before this WNBA season was set to start, the league made an unconventional announcement. Coach, the American fashion house, would become the official handbag partner of the WNBA. The multi-year partnership, a first for both the brand and the league, cemented the already blooming relationship between the players and fashion. Tunnel fits have become so valuable that the teams themselves post them on official social media channels, to the delight and sometimes befuddlement of fans. The Instagram account League Fits, dedicated to both the NBA and WNBA, has more than 1 million followers, as casual fans and diehards alike lock in to see what their faves are wearing. This moment would have been hard to imagine back in 1997, when the league began its inaugural season. But it suits the current landscape, where rookies are featured in ad campaigns with Coach, Caitlin Clark is dressed by Prada, and fan favorites Courtney Williams and Natisha Heedman are photographed wearing Burberry on the pages of Vogue. Fueled by record-setting viewership and buzzy stars, the WNBA is booming, and that boom is mirrored in the clothes. In the early days of the league, game day outfits largely flew under the radar, said Michelle Smith, a senior writer at the Next Hoops who has covered the league since its beginning. But as the league began its rollout, the players were presented in a very specific, feminine way, regardless of what the players wanted. I remember skirts and dresses and heels and makeup and hair down and things that were clearly feminizing, Smith said. They were, in that moment, trying to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. And they had a group of young women, and they encouraged those players being really feminized in imagery and in photos. That femininity came with rules. 4-time WNBA All-Star Ticha Penicairo, now retired, was drafted in 1998, the league's second year. There were no tunnel fits, and no photographers capturing the moments leading up to games, none of what fans have become accustomed to in the last few years, she said. When actually on the way to the stadium itself, players dressed informally, sometimes just in team sweats. But she does remember a fight over jeans. Like the NBA, the league wanted players to dress professionally, Penicairo said, and jeans were deemed too casual. The WNBA didn't have chartered private flights like the men did, a rule that only just changed last year, and public flights meant the players were readily visible to the world. The league wanted them to look more presentable, Penicairo recalled. Diana Taurasi, longtime Phoenix Mercury star, has spoken about being fined for wearing ripped jeans and being told they had to wear slacks and penny loafers when traveling. "You don't pay us enough to determine that we cannot wear jeans," she said. "It was ridiculous. I remember that everybody was like, 'No, we're putting our foot down.'" At the time, the league was basically a startup, Smith said, and heavily subsidized by the NBA. Who was their audience? Who did they appeal to? The league was still navigating these questions. And when not on the basketball court, the players themselves were largely invisible, barring a magazine feature. There was no way to show off their fit off the court, or even just their personalities. "I just don't think that was a place for player expression," Smith said. "You just didn't see players outside of their basketball context a lot. But players did find ways to show off their style. Veteran players with more money would sometimes spring for designer items," Penicairo said, though stylists were rare. Others played in lipstick, Tina Thompson, or freshly manicured nails, Lisa Leslie. For one All-Star game, when Penicairo knew the cameras would be on, she sprung for a stylist consultation, paying $5,000 for 5 suits. Fashion isn't always made for women who are 6'5" with size 11 feet. For their tall, athletic builds, it can be difficult to find clothes that will actually fit, said Amadi Brooks, who has styled both Aya Wilson and Sydney Colson. And who has the time? Young players are constantly in uniform or team gear in both high school and college, Brooks said. Once you go pro, there's long road trips and other hindrances. There simply isn't space to explore. Chicago Sky, and people assumed she was part of a high school or college team. The players are a brand, Penicairo said. The tunnel fits are super important these days. It's almost more important than your free throw percentage. Though still in her first season, Maddie Westbeld, a rookie for the Chicago Sky, started watching the W way before league fits and the attention around player fashion. "It was just a game fit," she said, rather than a game in itself. "Coming into the league, I would say it's changed in the sense of every person is empowered to feel like they can become an artist," Westbeld said. I think that's the most beautiful thing. Even among players, fashion has become a way to connect, said Ray Burrell of the LA Sparks. Sometimes in the locker room, my teammates and I have tried on Rickea Jackson's boots. We'll do fun stuff like that, she said. I'll borrow Dearica Hamby's purses for my outfit, or she'll call me and ask if I have any sunglasses or a purse and stuff. So sometimes we help each other out, like even just putting them together. Who are you off the basketball court? This is now the question players are grappling with. Before this season even began, Brooks said she had multiple discussions with league veteran Sydney Colson about how she wanted to use her style to showcase herself beyond basketball. During this year's All-Star Weekend, Colson did a stand-up comedy routine. Opening for Leslie Jones and Cedric the Entertainer, Brooks dressed her in an all-leather get-up from designer Carl Connie, the same designer Dave Chappelle wore in his classic 1993 Just for Laughs set. It's not just for the public to know those things, but also for her as a player and her as my client to feel like, okay, you see the attention you're getting because you're doing these things. This is who you can be, and this is what you'll look like in this next chapter, Brooks said. And yet the fans are loving it. The WNBA hasn't always had great fan engagement, Smith said, but the fashion helps drive interest. As women's sports across the country get more attention, and the league looks to expand in the coming years, that engagement is even more valuable.